Thank you very much for all coming. Much appreciated. We've got some familiar faces here, and I think the rain's caused a few no-shows, but we got the important people. But first, I'd just like to say thank you very much to Morgan as well. We put this on together with the HK Hub, and so Morgan's really helped promote this, so much appreciated. So to begin with, really, I think we all know our company, Claridge-Ware. We're a multi-line insurance brokerage. We work on personal lines and also corporate lines, but we specialise in medical insurance. I think one of the hot topics at the moment is obviously maternity cover in Hong Kong with the costs that are involved. So really what I want to do today is basically there's a lot of myths around maternity insurance, what it covers. So we'd like to, myth-busting maternity insurance. So first of all, maternity in Hong Kong. I mean, this is the big figures that everybody always talks about. I think you can look at delivering in a private hospital, and with complications, you could be paying up to 200,000 Hong Kong dollars. The packages for maternity can be a lot less. You know, they can start at around 60,000, but once you add in doctor's fees, complications, all the other charges around there, it can easily swell to $200,000. Public hospitals. Now, obviously, we work with private medical insurance providers, which will cover all of the costs. But in Hong Kong, there is a safety net. So you have got the public hospitals. Public hospitals, you would be in a ward, and they would charge you 100 Hong Kong dollars a day. But there are issues around that. I think what the general feedback we get is that the care is very, very good, but it's the experience for the mum-to-be that's perhaps not all to be desired. So things like you would be in a ward with 25 other people. There will be language barriers for expatriates. The doctor changes each time, so every time you go for a prenatal scan, it would actually be somebody different. You don't know who the obstetrician is going to be on the day when you actually deliver the baby either. And I know it's very nice, especially for first-time mothers, to build up that relationship with their obstetrician. And the last thing I'll say is visiting hours. I know you can be there for the delivery of the baby, but once it's born, in the public system, you actually have to wait until visiting hours to go and see your newborn, which I know is not acceptable for a lot of people. But I think we just did want to highlight that there is public hospitals here, so there is a safety net, and you're not going to be left completely on your own. Maternity cover can be an effective solution for cost mitigation in private facilities. And really what we're looking at today is taking out an insurance policy which covers maternity. How much of potentially the $200,000 bill is it going to cover, and what are the caveats surrounding the coverage? So the first myth, maternity insurance is available on a standalone basis. Now this one is false. All policies start with an inpatient module. So this would be covering hospital costs for non-maternity related treatments. So this would be cancer, any kind of surgery you have, any inpatient charges. So the policy begins with the inpatient. Onto that, you can then add on other modules. So many policies, you would start with the inpatient, then onto that, you can add on outpatient coverage, which would be your regular routine doctor visits. You can also add on dental, and then you can also add the all-important maternity coverage. Some policies are all-inclusive, so you just pay your premium and it covers maternity up to a certain limit. Others, as we said, are more modular, so you can pick and choose. As we said, maternity is always in addition to a policy's core benefits. And I think with this, I think also looking at the maternity policies, it really depends what your long-term goals are on top of having children. We can find you a policy now which will cover maternity. There's some new policies in the market which are very cost-effective. They will cover the majority of the maternity costs, but it depends after the maternity. Are you just looking for something which is going to pay for the maternity and then you have an alternative solution? Or do you want something that would then continue on? Because as we said before, the policies don't only cover maternity, so it is a medical insurance policy which also covers maternity costs. So one thing to consider would be, you know, after your child is born, do you want to add them to the policy and continue their cover, or do you have another option? If you have another option through a policy through work or a private policy that you may have, then really what we're looking at is just those maternity costs. But I think it's important to consider really what your long-term goals are in relation to this. Myth 2, maternity insurance is instantly available. I think that most people know that this one again is false. There is always a waiting period. Now, the waiting period, I would say an average would be between 10 months to 12 months. Some are longer. And we have two types of waiting period which are common in the market. One is from until conception. So you cannot conceive until you've passed the waiting period. So if we looked at a 12-month waiting period, you have to go the full 12 months and then you conceive, and then maternity costs are covered from there onwards. The other is actually from here we have the start of the plan. So you could take out the policy. Again, we have a 12-month waiting period. If you conceive after 6 months, you would not have any of the maternity costs in the next 6 months covered. You would have to complete the full 12 months again until the maternity cover kicks in. But you're not going to be penalised for actually conceiving before the waiting period. And if anyone's got any questions, sorry, please just feel free to shout out. We've got a small audience today, so please do shout out. Okay, so here we're just saying 10 to 24 months duration. The conception waiting periods generally tend to be a little bit shorter than the to claim or the start of the plan waiting periods, for obvious reasons, because you're not going to be able to claim for anything beforehand. Again, we're just highlighting it here that only maternity treatment after the waiting period would be eligible for claiming on the policy. And the other thing to be aware of is actually non-maternity coverage would be there from day one of the plan. So you have a policy, and as we're going back a little bit again, but it's not only maternity insurance, it is medical insurance that also covers maternity. So your non-maternity claims would be there from day one. You don't have any waiting periods on those at all. Okay, we move on to myth 3. Only a mother needs maternity insurance. Now, this one is not so much a true or false. I think it depends on the insurer. Some of the insurers will cover a mother on their own for maternity costs. You only need to have one person buy the policy, which would be the lady who would be insured, and they would cover the maternity costs accordingly. Other providers make sure that both husband and wife actually purchase the policy. Now, part of this is because of the cost. I mean, I think if you look at it from a business point of view, an insurance company is going to be paying out up to $200,000, potentially 12 months from when you purchase the policy. If you're paying $5,000 in premium, you can see that after 12 months, it's not a great business proposition for the insurance company. So a lot of them do make husband and wife both purchase the policy in order to be eligible for maternity cover. Of course. Yep. That's right. I mean, I think when you come to us, we would then highlight the plans which you could take out on your own and the ones that you would need a partner to be insured. And to be completely honest, when you're looking at both husband and wife insured, and you look at if maternity is the sole aim of taking out the policy, when you look at the two premiums combined versus what you claim, it almost nets each other out. So I think I would say probably 99% of the policies that we provide to our customers, they generally tend to be taken out by the lady only. Quite often what we would do is, if possible, we would split up the family. So we would take a policy with maternity perhaps for the lady, and then we look at the same policy but without maternity coverage for the husband. The reason being is it's a lower price if we don't include the maternity, and it's really finding a policy which is suitable for both people's needs. A husband is not going to be able to have a baby anytime soon, so we don't want to pay to insure the maternity costs. Allianz Worldwide Care, very well known insurer, is one example of this. They actually require both husband and wife to take out the policy, which does increase the premium dramatically. I think future trends, I think insurance companies in Hong Kong especially have been hit quite hard by maternity claims. The amount you pay versus the amount you can potentially claim is very, very different. And I think over the next 3, 4, 5 years, I think more and more insurance companies are either going to extend the waiting period to at least 12 months to make sure they're getting 2 years of premiums from you, or they're going to make sure that both husband and wife need to be co-insured in order to take out the policy. And that's really just to basically make it sustainable, because I think if an insurance company is only insuring ladies between the age of 25 and 45, it's not a sustainable business model. I think quite a few insurers have been burnt, especially in Hong Kong, on this. Myth 4, children have the same restrictions as parents. Now we're looking here, we're kind of moving a little bit away from maternity cover into kind of more newborn coverage, because a lot of people think, okay, how am I going to afford to pay $200,000 to deliver a baby at Matilda? But what happens once that baby is born? And there's 2 ways that insurance companies will accept newborn babies. One is they're actually born into the plan, and the other one is essentially free benefits. Now on the free benefits, a lot of insurance companies will market it as, once your newborn arrives, we will give you $100,000 of coverage for your newborn, and that is under the mother's plan, so you're not actually paying any premium for the baby. So that sounds fantastic. Okay, something's wrong with the child when they're born, they've got $100,000 of cover for any kind of medical treatment that happens in the hospital. But what happens once you've reached that $100,000 limit, or perhaps it's a 30-day limit? So they may say $100,000 and 30 days. After 30 days, they're going to ask you to fill in an application form to add the baby, declaring all their medical history. Now, they do reserve the right to reject the coverage for the baby. So they may actually not accept them onto the policy. And then you're in a sticky situation because you've got a child who's perhaps got some congenital birth defects, for example, very expensive to treat, but they're uninsurable. The insurance company will not accept them. So we like to say to people, really, you want a policy where the baby is going to be born into the plan, so guaranteed newborn coverage. Now, what that means is once the baby is born, no matter what their health status, whether they've got 1 illness, 3 illnesses, no illnesses, the insurance company will guarantee to accept them into the policy. The difference is that there's no free cover, so you do have to pay the premium for the child from day 1, but the coverage is absolutely guaranteed. So I think from a risk mitigation point of view, you can really make sure that you've got the coverage there for the child. Similarly, when the baby is born into the plan, they do also have waiting periods. These are generally lower than maternity waiting periods, and it would usually be around 6 to 10 months. Now that 6 to 10 months is how long the mother needs to be on the policy for. So if the mother is already pregnant, you could actually buy a policy, and after 6 months, your child is born, the maternity isn't going to be covered, but actually the newborn would have that guaranteed option of being added to the plan. So if there were any awful conditions, then you know that they're going to be covered. And this is where the instant coverage options come. So essentially, as soon as the baby is born, you know that you pay the premium and the child is guaranteed to be covered from their date of birth. And that's a big benefit, I think, for policies in Hong Kong. Again, just to highlight that there will be no pre-existing medical conditions applied to the newborn. Essentially, as we said, they're born into the plan, so everything is guaranteed to be covered. You're not going to have to declare any health conditions because they will all be automatically covered by the insurer. Myth 5, there's no such thing as fertility insurance. Okay, so IVF is becoming much more common these days. Fertility and IVF can be covered under a number of options with insurance companies. There isn't a lot of them, but it is an option there. They will allow for limited treatment of fertility problems. Usually they will have a waiting period on there, which would be normally between 12 to 24 months, depending on the insurer. And the maximum coverage we can get for fertility treatment is actually $17,000 US, and this would be a lifetime limit rather than annual limit. So I think that's very important to be aware of. Most of the benefits in a medical insurance policy are actually an annual limit, but with this one it is lifetime, so it's important to be aware of this. They will cover children born via assisted reproduction. So although some insurers may not actually cover the costs of the IVF and the fertility treatment or even investigations into it, they will actually still cover all of the maternity and delivery charges from a child born via assisted reproduction. Some insurers will completely exclude them, but if that's an issue for anyone, we will make sure that we recommend a plan, or at least quote a plan, which will cover child born as a result of IVF. Okay, we've got it through rather quickly, but has anybody got any questions at the moment? I know we can break into one-on-ones. No.
Clarify the waiting period again. You mentioned 12 months.
For maternity?
Yeah, and how it works with prenatal costs.
Okay, so if you said we had, let's say a waiting period is 12 months. You purchase the policy after, you take out the policy on January 1. You become pregnant after 6 months. For the next 6 months, although you're pregnant, the insurance company is not going to pick up any of those maternity costs. So those prenatal costs between month 6 of the policy and month 12 of the policy would have to be paid for by yourself out of your own pocket. As soon as you've gone past the 12 months, that's the sort of the trigger point. And that's when the insurance company will then begin to pick up maternity-related expenses that occur after the waiting period has been completed.
You still have the main bulk of the costs.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think, it's probably 75–80% of the total maternity bill is going to be on the delivery. I mean, that's the expensive part. And as long as the delivery is after the waiting period, then that's going to be covered in full. I think majority of people can probably afford a few prenatal visits, $1,100–1,200 Hong Kong dollars a time, once a month. But I think it's the $200,000 delivery bill which is hurts most people's pockets. So as long as you're getting that after the waiting period, that will be covered in full.
That $200,000 figure.
Yeah.
What is that based on?
That's the top end. Yeah, completely. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That would be the upper limit, I would say. So that would be private room at the Matilda with complications included as well. I mean, if you look on the Matilda's website, they'll quote you $60,000 for a 3-night package for a normal vaginal delivery with no complications. But what you need to be aware of on those quoted prices is that doesn't include your doctor fees.
And in terms of the lead-in period, where the waiting period, would you say that that's consistent across all the insurance providers, or do they differ depending on the insurance?
There used to be a lot more difference. So there was quite a few low waiting periods. It went as low as 8 months. So effectively, you could have an inkling that you were pregnant and still have time to buy a policy. 8 months later, you're cutting it very fine, but the delivery would be after the waiting period. I think nowadays, pretty much everybody is on a 12-month waiting period minimum. We do have a couple of options on 10, but majority is 10 to 12 months.
You made a good point, which is obviously a lot of insurance companies are concerned by this.
Yeah.
And that the waiting period is pretty much mandatory for the policy. The same kind of devil's advocate a little bit. Why would it not be better just to save you money and pay for the whole cost, or is there still a bit cost benefit by taking out the insurance?
I think with some policies, with a 12-month waiting period, you effectively have to renew it. Because otherwise you're not past the waiting period. So the premium you're looking at times 2, effectively. I think it's important if you just looked at the maternity cost versus the premium, you may find with some policies it nets each other out. So you're thinking, well, why not I just pay it out of my own pocket? I think one of the other parts, and what a lot of people don't or forget about because they're so wrapped up in having a baby, is that it is a private medical insurance policy. So you're getting all of those other benefits for cancer treatment, for coughs, colds, flus, physios, all of these other items which are automatically included.
And you'd add to that the newborn cover?
And the newborn coverage, again, yeah, I mean, I think that's something that a lot of people just really don't consider at all. And it is what happens if, touch wood, it never happens, but if a child is born and they have some congenital conditions, they may well be uninsurable.
When it comes to the coverage,
Not for the child, no. Well, it depends. If they give you the guaranteed newborn coverage, then yes. But it all comes down to if the child is going to be underwritten. So if after the baby's born, in order to add them to the policy, they're asking health-related questions, it's likely that either there's going to be exclusions on the policy, or they may even turn down the coverage. They may reject the child's application. No, we can do that. Well, you always need the mother to be covered. So basically, the mother always needs to be insured, and then once they deliver the child, they would have the option to add them to the policy or not. I mean, if the child's all completely healthy and no issues, you know, we could look at alternative plans for the child, which are, you know, lower cost, perhaps with different insurers. But if there are any issues there, at least you've got that guaranteed acceptance.
We've got a question from online, which is, what's the story with DKB?
DKB, okay, well, they're one of the companies that have been particularly burnt. I think they had a very, very good maternity offer. It was 8 months waiting period, full cover for maternity. They have actually now closed the policy to new applicants from Hong Kong and China. Hong Kong, China and Singapore. So basically those high cost locations have been completely closed to new applicants. Existing policyholders are still allowed to renew. My wife is one. The prices are going up, but you still have that guaranteed right to renew. I think that we saw some figures where they actually looked at the average age of a DKB policyholder in Hong Kong, and it was something ridiculous like 65% were ladies on their own between the ages of 25 and 35. So I think they know where the claims are going to be coming from. I mean, to be honest, looking at it from an insurance point of view, they mispriced the policy. It was just not sustainable, the amount of benefits that they were giving for the price. So they've closed it to new business, but existing policyholders can continue the plan.
Thank you.
Any other online questions? No. Any more questions from anyone at the moment? Yeah. Yep.
Yes, it's not all fully in love with that disorder, but at the end of the day, you know, it's comparable to say, yeah, that.
Yep.
Are you seeing that people are just snubbing the policies because it's too expensive and it's too difficult?
I think we are seeing a bit of a change. I think maternity insurance is always still going to be there because although a lot of people look at, okay, the exact dollars I'm going to pay out versus the premium, I think it's all the other associated benefits that you get, which when you look at it, well, okay, I can put all my cash and pay for the delivery at Matilda out of my own pocket, or I can put it into an insurance policy, which also covers many other things. However, I do think that more and more people, if they have very good levels of cover through work, for non-maternity related treatment, because a lot of work policies don't offer maternity these days, then we are seeing people actually basically pay privately for a delivery if they have the other cover elsewhere.
So having some of that
Yeah. Yeah, or there's some people I know who will actually do the opposite. So they'll do their prenatal privately, and they're building up the relationship with the doctor, and then they will actually go public for the delivery.
I just wonder whether that might, in the long run, take the costs that come out of whether people are going to take up these policies which then offer the insurance to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Wisely, maybe
I think so. I mean, I think in Hong Kong it's a bit of an anomaly because it's basic sort of supply and demand. I think that there is not enough hospital beds and there's not enough private hospitals here. So the Matilda doesn't need to say we're going to reduce our prices because there's always going to be someone there who is willing to pay full cost, or but they open it up across the border, and then they have all of their beds taken every day of the week. Yeah. Anything else at the moment? No. Well, we can break in one-on-one. We've got some of our team here. We've got Louis and Barney, also Christopher here. So if anyone's got any questions at all, please feel free to shout, grab us. There's plenty of food, plenty of drinks. So please do tuck into those as well, and we'll take it from there.